Namaste, Dandavat Pranam. By the instruction and grace of our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj, we are here reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Canto 3, the Status Quo, Chapter 14, Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. Text 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Nishamya Kosravhino Pavarnitam Arekatam Karana Shukaratmana Unasa Paprachatam Udyantanjalir Nachati Tripto Viduro Dritavrataha. Shukadev Goswami said, after hearing from the great sage Maitreya about the Lord's incarnation as Varaha, Vidura, who had taken a vow, begged him with folded hands to please narrate further transcendental activities of the Lord, since he, Vidura, did not yet feel satisfied. Vidura uvacha tinhaiva tu muni shrestha arina yagya mortina adhidhaityo hiranyaksho tata ityanu shushruma. Sri Vidura said, O chief amongst the great sages, I have heard by disciplic succession that Hiranyaksha, the original demon, was slain by the same form of sacrifices the personality of Godhead Lord bore. Purport. As referred to previously, the boar incarnation was manifested in 2 millenniums, namely Svayambhuva and Chakshusha. In both millenniums, there was a boar incarnation of the Lord, but in the Svayambhuva millennium, he lifted the earth from within the water of the universe, whereas in the Chakshusha millennium, he killed the first demon, Hiranyaksha. In the Svayambhuva millennium, he assumed the color white, and in the Chakshusha millennium, he assumed the color red. Vidura had already heard about one of them, and he proposed to hear about the other. The 2 different boar incarnations described are the one Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 3. Tasya chodhara takshonim svadam stragrena lilaya daitya rajasya cha brahman kasmadetur abhunmrida. What was the reason, O Brahmana, for the fight between the demon king and Lord Boar, while the Lord was lifting the earth as his pastime? Text 4. Shraddhadhanaya bhaktaya ruhitaj janma vishtaram vishena tripyati mana param kantu halam hime. My mind has become very inquisitive, and therefore I am not satisfied with hearing the narration of the Lord's appearance. Please, therefore, speak more and more to a devotee who is faithful. Purport. One who is actually faithful and inquisitive is qualified to hear the transcendental pastimes of the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vidura was a suitable candidate to receive such transcendental messages. Text 5. Maitreya uvacha sadhu viratvaya prishtam avhatara katam hare yatvam prachasi martyanam mrityu pasa vishantanim. The great sage Maitreya said, O great warrior, the inquiry made by you is just befitting a devotee, because it concerns the incarnation of the personality of Godhead. It is the source of liberation from the chain of birth and death for all those who are otherwise destined to die. Purport. The great sage Maitreya addressed Vidura as a warrior, not only because Vidura belonged to the Kuru family, but because he was anxious to hear about the chivalrous activities of the Lord in his incarnations of Varaha and Narasimha. Because the inquiries concerned the Lord, they were perfectly befitting a devotee. A devotee has no taste for hearing anything mundane. There are many topics of mundane warfare, but a devotee is not inclined to hear them. The topics of the warfare in which the Lord engages do not concern the war of death, but the war against the chain of Maya, which obliges one to accept repeated birth and death. In other words, one who takes delight in hearing the war topics of the Lord is relieved from the chains of birth and death. Foolish people are suspicious of Krishna's taking part in the battle of Kurukshetra, not knowing that his taking part ensured liberation for all who were present on the battlefield. It is said by Bhisma Dev that all who were present on the battlefield of Kurukshetra attained their original spiritual existences after death. Therefore, hearing the war topics of the Lord is as good as any other devotional service. Text 6. Yayotana pada putro munina gita yarbaka mrityo krit bhaiva murdhyan grim arura hare padam. By hearing these topics from the sage Narada, the son of King Uttanapada, Dhruva, was enlightened regarding the personality of Godhead, and he ascended the abode of the Lord, placing his feet over the head of death. Purport. While quitting his body, Maharaj Dhruva, the son of King Uttanapad, was attended by personalities like Sunanda and others who received him in the kingdom of God. He left this world at an early age as a young boy, although he had attained the throne of his father and had several children of his own. Because he was due to quit this world, death was waiting for him. He did not care for death, however, and even with his present body, he boarded a spiritual airplane and went directly to the planet of Vishnu because of his association with the great sage Narada, who had spoken to him the narration of the pastimes of the Lord. Text 7. Atatrapiti hasoyam shruto me varnitapura brahmana deva devena devanam anuprachatam. This history of the fight between the Lord as a boar and the demon Hiranyaksha was heard by me in a year long ago, as it was described by the foremost of the demigods, Brahma, when he was questioned by the other demigods. Text 8. Ditir dakshayani kshatar maricham kasyapam patim apatya kama chakame sandhyayam hrichayardita. Diti, daughter of Daksha, being afflicted with sex desire, begged her husband, Kasyapa, the son of Marichi, to have intercourse with her in the evening in order to beget a child. 9. Istvagni jivam payasa purusham yajusham patim nimlochatyarka asinam agnegare samahitam. The sun was setting and the sage was sitting in trance after offering oblations to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, whose tongue is the sacrificial fire. Purport. Fire is considered to be the tongue of the Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, and oblations of grains and clarified butter offered to the fire are thus accepted by him. That is the principle of all sacrifices, of which Lord Vishnu is the master. In other words, the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu includes the satisfaction of all demigods and other living beings. Text 10. Ditir uvacha eshamam tvat krite vidvan Tamha ata sarashana, Dhanoti dinam vikramya, Rambhami vamatangaja. In that place, the beautiful Diti expressed her desire. O learned one, Cupid is taking his arrows and distressing me forcibly, as a mad elephant troubles a banana tree. Purport. Beautiful Diti, seeing her husband absorbed in trance, began to speak loudly, not attempting to attract him by bodily expressions. She frankly said that her whole body was distressed by sex desire because of her husband's presence, just as a banana tree is troubled by a mad elephant. It was not natural for her to agitate her husband when he was in trance, but she could not control her strong sexual appetite. Her sex desire was like a mad elephant, and therefore it was the prime duty of her husband to give her all protection by fulfilling her desire. Text 11. Tadbhavandayam anayam sapatninam samridibhi prajavatinam bhadramte mayunktam anugrah mayayunum kritam anugraham. Mayayuntam anugraham. Therefore, you should be kind towards me by showing me complete mercy. I desire to have sons, and I am much distressed by seeing the opulence of my co-wives. By performing this act, you will become happy. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, sexual intercourse for begetting children is accepted as righteous. A person sexually inclined for simple sense gratification, however, is unrighteous. In Diti's appeal to her husband for sex, it was not exactly that she was afflicted by sex desires, but she desired sons. Since she had no sons, she felt poorer than her co-wives. Therefore, Kashyapa was supposed to satisfy his bona fide wife. Text 12. Vartaryapturuman manam lokan avishate yasa patir bhavad vidoyasam prajayananujayate. A woman is honored in the world by the benediction of her husband, and a husband like you will become famous by having children because you are meant for the expansion of living entities. Purport. According to Rishabdadev, one should not become a father or mother unless one is confident that he can beget children whom he can deliver from the clutches of birth and death. Human life is the only opportunity to get out of the material scene, which is full of miseries of birth, death, old age, and diseases. Every human being should be given the opportunity to take advantage of this human form of life, and a father like Kashyapa is supposed to beget good children for the purpose of liberation. Text 13. Varapitano Bhagavan Daksho Dutrit Vatsala Kamvrinita Varamvatsa Itya Prachatana Pratak. In days long ago, our fathers, the most opulent Daksha, who was affectionate to his daughters, asked each of us to separately whom he would prefer to select as our husband. Purport. It appears from this verse that free selection of a husband was allowed by the father, but not by free association. The daughters were asked separately to submit their selection of a husband who was famous for his acts and personality. The ultimate selection depended on the choice of the father. Text 14. Saviditvatmajanam no bhavam santana bhavana trayodasadadattasam yaste shilam anuvrata. Our well-wishing father, Daksha, after knowing our intentions, handed over 13 of his daughters unto you, and since then we have all been faithful. Purport. And generally, the daughters were too shy to express their opinions before their father, but the father would accept the daughter's intentions through someone else, such as a grandmother to whom the grandchildren had free access. King Daksha collected the opinions of his daughters and thus handed over 13 to Kasyapa. Every one of Diti's sisters was a mother of children. Therefore, since she was equally faithful to the same husband, why should she remain without children? Text 15. Atame kuru kalyanam amam kamala lochana arto pasar panam buman amogam hi mahiyasi. O lotus-eyed one, kindly bless me by fulfilling my desire. When someone in distress approaches a great person, his pleas should never go in vain. Purport. Diti knew well that her request might be rejected because of the untimely situation, but she pleaded that when there is an emergency or a distressful condition, there is no consideration of time or situation. And thus ends our reading for today. We'll continue from text 16 on Friday. Before we stop, were there any comments or questions? Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Shripad Bhakti Madhava Puri Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Prabhupada, Srila Guru Maharaj, Srila Gurudev, Srila Acharya Dev, Srila Shanta Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Rupanuga Guru Varga Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the worldwide devotees. Sama Bhaktiveda Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Nishingapuri Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Baladev Subhadra Jagannath Ju Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Giri Govardhan Gupta Govardhan Dham Ki Jai, Sham Kund Radha Kund Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Jai Harinam Sankirtan Yagi Ki Jai, Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Jai Scientific Sankirtan Yagi Ki Jai, Jai Princeton Bhaktivedanta Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Institute Ki Jai, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari 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 Bol.
Hari Bol. And Jai Krishna Keshava Das Ki Jai.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai.
Pranam.
Yeah. Namaste.